Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. Good to see you all. Tonight, we're continuing with our study of Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace, A.C.Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Tonight, we will continue from text 17 of chapter 8. Now, chapter 8 is entitled Attaining the Supreme. And as we pointed out last week, the principal topic or the principal focus of this chapter is to explain to us how to perfect the art of dying, because each one of us will need to leave this world at some point in time. And we need to be prepared as best we can for the moment of death. So to prepare ourselves properly for the art of dying, Krishna has spoken the Bhagavad Gita, and in particular the 8th chapter deals with this subject matter of how to die, how to fix the consciousness at the time of death. So we'll continue from text 17. If you have any questions or comments as we go, then please ask. So text number 17. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together forms the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. So now Krishna is putting the material creation into perspective. In other words, each one of us, we live for a very short amount of time, particularly in this material world, particularly on this earth planet. The earth planet is known as Marcha Loka or Mrityu Loka, which means the planet of death. In other words, from a higher perspective, from the higher beings in this universe, this material world does not last for a very long time. This life on this earth does not last for a very long time. Maybe, what's the average lifespan? It's around about 80 years old or something, 78, 83, whatever the lifespan is, the expectancy. It's not a long period of time when you're on the platform of universal time. In other words, we don't live for very long in this material world. So because we don't live for very long, Krishna is putting it into perspective for us to contemplate this fact, so that we will understand from a realistic point of view that we don't have long to live in this world, so that we can make the best use of our human form of life. Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, the duration of the material universe is limited. In the causal ocean, there are innumerable Brahmas rising and disappearing like bubbles. Brahma and his creation are all part of the material universe and are in constant flux. So, in this material world, even Lord Brahma's life, which is, something like 311 trillion years, or yojana, like a very long time. Even that is insignificant in universal time. In the time of Mahavishnu, this is an insignificant amount of time. So we become bewildered and attached, and we think that we can live in this world perpetually, but it's just a very short amount of time. So we should not become bewildered by this. Prabhupada further says in the purport, in the material universe of even Brahma, in the material universe, not even Brahma is free from the process of birth, old age, disease, and death. Brahma, however, is directly engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord, in the management of this universe. Therefore, he at once attains liberation. So, when you study these points, many people do not understand how this world works. You know, people of different philosophies, different religions, they don't actually understand the absolute truth. They don't actually understand even the truth of how this material creation works. But it is described in these higher scriptures, in the Vedic scriptures of ancient India, that in this material world, you can only go back to Goloka or to Vaikuntha, to the spiritual world, from two vantage points. You can go back from Brahmaloka and Bhumi Loka, or the Earth planet. So the planet we're on now and Lord Brahma's planet, these are the only two planets within the material creation that you can enter back into the spiritual sky from. So Lord Brahma's planet is where higher beings live. You know, Lord Brahma and his associates. And because if Brahma is a devotee, then by his association, you can become fully purified and you can transcend this material world at the time of the annihilation of his planet. Or if you come to Earth and you take advantage of the Yuga Dharma, the Yuga Dharma means the process of self-realization in this material world. If you come and take advantage of this, you can go back home, back to Godhead. So in other words, if you're born here on the earth and you follow the Yuga Dharma, or the process of self-realization for the particular age that you are appearing in, you can, if you use that opportunity properly, you can transcend this material world and go back home, back to Godhead. That's the extraordinary power of being born on this earth planet at the right time. Now, in particular, we're in the Kali Yuga, and the Sankirtan Yajna is considered to be the most efficient, the easiest way to become perfect in this material world. You can go back to Godhead just by practicing Sankirtan. So it's such a powerful process. Therefore, Kali Yuga is said to be the most auspicious of the ages. We would think otherwise. We would think the Kali Yuga is the most inauspicious age, but actually it is the most auspicious, because by taking advantage of the Yuga Dharma, Harinam Sankirtan, by chanting the holy names of Krishna, you can perfect your life and go back home, back to Godhead. So that is the potency of this this opportunity that we're given. Then it says, elevated sannyasis are promoted to Brahma's planet, which survives all the heavenly planets. So taking birth on earth is a great fortune. Going to Brahma's planet takes a great deal of austerity. You have to perfectly practice Varnashram Dharma for 100 lifetimes to go to Brahma's planet. So it's a great process. It's a gradual process. Whereas you can take birth here on earth, you can transcend and go back to the spiritual world very quickly, which is a great fortune. So this is the process that we're following. And we're very fortunate we've been given an opportunity to follow this process, given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to perfect our lives and to go back home, back to Godhead, which is the goal of life. Okay. Text 18 and 19. At the beginning of Brahma's day, all living entities become manifest from the unmanifest state. And thereafter, when the night falls, they are merged into the unmanifested again. Again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being. And with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. So Prabhupada says in the purport that the less intelligent who try to remain within this material world can exhibit their activities on higher and lower planets. But at the coming of Brahma's night, they are all annihilated. In this way, they are captivated by the spell of the material world. But those intelligent persons who take to Krishna consciousness use the human life fully in devotional service, chanting Hare Krishna. Thus they transfer themselves, even in this life, to Krishna Loka and become externally blissful there, not being subject to rebirths. So Brahma's day arrives again and again. It is the one day of Lord Brahma, just to put things in perspective. One day of Lord Brahma is said to be 1,000 Divya Yugas. A Divya Yuga means 4,300,000 years. It is the combined time of Kali Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Satya Yuga combined. When you combine them all together, that Divya Yuga, 4,300,000 years, that is that is one Divya Yuga, and 1,000 of them together, that constitutes one day of Lord Brahma, right? Which is that is an extraordinary time frame. So such an incredible amount of time. That is one day of Lord Brahma. And then Lord Brahma has 365 days in his year, and he lives for 100 years. So that is the length of the universe. Now, if you don't perfect your Krishna consciousness, if you don't become Krishna conscious through that time frame of a lifetime of Lord Brahma, which is such a huge amount of time, you have to take birth again in this material world. That's the extraordinary time frame. And then you have to take birth again within this material world. Right? But if you become Krishna conscious, if you perfect the human form of life, you can go back home, back to Godhead. Right? That is the potency, that is the power of this Sankirtan process, the Sankirtan movement. Right? So we are extraordinarily fortunate that if we take advantage of the Yuga Dharma and we become self-realized, that we can go back to Godhead, even in this lifetime, which is extraordinary. Text number 20. Yet there is another unmanifest nature, which transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. So Prabhupada says in the purport that Krishna's superior spiritual energy is transcendental and eternal. It is beyond manifestation and annihilation. Krishna's superior energy is completely opposite in quality to material nature. So Krishna is explaining the material world, which is temporary, and now he's explaining the spiritual world, the para-prakriti, or the superior energy. Right? He explains first of all what the material energy is like. It remains for a vast amount of time, but still it is limited. It is temporary. Whereas this material world, the spiritual world, is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. Right? It remains even after this material world is destroyed and annihilated. That is the potency of the spiritual world. It is eternal. So Krishna here is giving us the various options. Right? He's giving us facts about the material energy, but now he's also giving us the alternative, which is the spiritual world. Text number 21. That which the Vedantists describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as the supreme destination, that place from which, having attained it, one never returns, that is my supreme abode. So Prabhupada explains in the purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives only a small hint of his personal abode, Goloka Vrindavan. There is nothing superior to the abode of Krishna. And that abode is the ultimate destination. When one attains to it, he never returns to the material world. Krishna's abode and Krishna are non-different. Being of the same quality, Goloka Vrindavan is a replica of, Gokula Vrindavan is a replica of Goloka Vrindavan. So, in this verse, Prabhupada is explaining, based on what Krishna has explained in the Bhagavad Gita, that if you become liberated from this material world and go back to the spiritual world, you don't have to return to this material energy again. Devotees ask this question to Prabhupada. If we do go back to the spiritual world, do we have to come again to this material world? And Prabhupada said, once burnt, twice shy. That if you do go back to the spiritual world, and if you ever think of misusing your independence again and returning to the material world, Krishna will give you darshan, right? And he will show you this is actually what you are about to experience again. And then seeing that again, you'll think, I will not go there. I will stay in the spiritual world. So we only come to this material world once by Krishna's mercy. And once you return, then you lose your desire to return back to this material world again. So the spiritual world manifests in this world as Vrindavan Dham, or Mayapur Dham, or Jagannath Puri Dham, these holy places in this world. They are replicas of the spiritual world. You can feel when you go there the spiritual potency of these places, right? They are extraordinary. Now, these places They are extraordinary. And for one who has pure vision, like Gopal Kumar, the famous story in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, we hear of Gopal Kumar. Gopal Kumar, he was able to have darshan of Gokula Vrindavan, of the Vrindavan in this world, which Krishna had manifest. And then he was able to travel by his devotional potency to Goloka Vrindavan, to the spiritual world. And when he got there to the spiritual world, to Goloka Vrindavan, he said in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he saw there was very little difference between the two dhams. In other words, if you have pure vision, you'll see both are practically the same. So we are fortunate because our goal is to go to Goloka Vrindavan, to the spiritual world. And Krishna, out of his kindness, he brings the spiritual world to us in this material world as Gokula Vrindavan, right, which is a replica of the spiritual world. And by visiting these places on a regular basis, one becomes purified and develops his love for Krishna very quickly. Text number 22. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all-pervading, and everything is situated within him. Prabhupada says in the purport that the supreme destination from which there is no return, the abode of Krishna, this abode is Ananda Chinmaya Ras, a place where everything is full of spiritual bliss. All the variegatedness manifest there is of the quality of spiritual bliss. Nothing there is material. That variegatedness is the spiritual expansion of Krishna himself. So basically, this is our choice. Our choice is based on our desire to stay in this material world or to go back to Krishna. Right? That is our choice. Right? We can stay in this material world or we can return back to Krishna. Right? A devotee wants to go back to Krishna, to stay with him. He loses his interest to come back to this material world again. So this is the choice that every devotee has. Now, what is the difference between the material world and the spiritual world? The material world is asat. The spiritual world is sat. Sat means eternal. Material world is temporary. The spiritual world is chit. The material world is achit. One is conscious, the other one is inert, unconscious. And the spiritual world is Ananda, the material world is Nirananda. Nirananda means it is Nirananda means it is full of suffering, the opposite of bliss. And the spiritual world is full of bliss. So the choice is ours. By studying the Bhagavad Gita, if we can fix our consciousness, we can fix on returning to the spiritual world once again, if we remember Krishna at the time of death. Prabhupada then says in the purport that to enter Krishna's abode is possible only by bhakti, as indicated by bhaktya. In that abode, Krishna is the supreme merciful deity. And although situated there, he has expanded himself into millions and millions of plenary portions. So, the only way to realize Krishna is through bhakti, the practice of devotional service. And In order to accept our bhakti or our devotion, Krishna accepts all of our devotion through the process of practicing bhakti, right? And he accepts our devotion through all of these different expansions. He expands himself as the deity, the Archa Vigraha, in this material world to accept the bhakti or the devotion of so many living entities. Prabhupada then says in the purport that although Krishna is always in Goloka Vrindavan, he is all-pervading, so that everything is going on nicely. His energies are so expansive that they systematically conduct everything without a flaw, although he is far away. And then Prabhupada says, Krishna Loka is Ananda Chinmaya Ras, a place where everything is full of spiritual bliss. So Krishna in this Bhagavad Gita, he is giving us the basic choice. Choose the material world, which is temporary and limited, a place of birth and death, or choose the spiritual world. So by practicing bhakti yoga, we can get to the point where Krishna can accept us and we can go back to the spiritual world. Okay. O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which, passing from this world, the yogi does or does not come back. So Prabhupada says in the purport, the unalloyed devotees who are totally surrendered souls do not care when they leave their bodies or by what method. They leave everything in Krishna's hands and so easily and happily return to Krishna. So that is the process that a pure devotee does not focus on a particular time or place to necessarily leave this world from. Because if a devotee is engaged in devotional service, they will go back to Krishna without fail. So if we can just stay fixed in devotional service throughout our life and be practicing devotional service, and at the time of death, meditate upon Krishna, we will go back to him. That is the process of bhakti. Text 24. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery god. In the light at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels to the north. So Prabhupada explains that for the pure devotee, there is no fear of returning to the cycle of birth and death, whether he leaves the body at an inauspicious or auspicious moment by accident or by arrangement. And this is a very interesting point, because we don't know when we will leave this material world. We don't know what the circumstances will be. Prabhupada says, by an accident, sometimes people die by accident. My guru died by an accident. So how we leave this material world is not important. What is important is what our consciousness is like at the time of death. What are we focusing on at the time of death? That is what we need to focus on in our consciousness. So we don't get carried away, or we don't get distracted by leaving our body at a particular time or in a particular place. If we're always engaged in Krishna's service, wherever we leave, that will be auspicious and we will return to Krishna. Text number 25. The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back. Prabhupada explains, expert karmis attain the moon. They eventually return to earth. So this is not speaking about the devotees. The devotee has nothing to fear. A devotee will go back to Krishna. Whereas, regardless of what time and place he disappears. But the karmi, or one who still has material desires, he has to go back to he has to go back. He will not attain perfection. Right? He has to return back to this earth. Right? If one is materialistic, he's practicing some spirituality or some regulation, some Vedic injunctions. But if he leaves at the wrong time, he just has to take birth again in this material world. So there is no safeguard to returning back to Krishna except through bhakti, as Krishna confirms again and again in the Bhagavad Gita. Text 26. According to Vedic opinion, there are two ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back. And when one passes in darkness, he returns. And Prabhupada says, karmis and jnanis from time immemorial are constantly going and coming. They do not attain ultimate salvation, for they do not surrender to Krishna. Text 27. Although the devotees know these two paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. So text 27, main point, Prabhupada says. A devotee should not worry whether he will depart by arrangement or accident. The devotee should be firmly established in Krishna consciousness and chant. The best way to be absorbed is to be always dovetailed in Krishna's service, and this will make one's path to the spiritual kingdom safe, certain and direct. One should be unattached in material affairs and everything in Krishna consciousness. By this yukta vairagya, one attains perfection. The devotee knows his passage to Krishna is guaranteed by devotional service. And the final verse for this chapter, a person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing austere sacrifices, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these. And at the end, he reaches the supreme, eternal abode. So then Prabhupada says, in the purport, Prabhupada says, one should learn Bhagavad Gita from a devotee, because no one else can perfectly understand the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. This is a sign of faith. When one gets a devotee's association, one actually begins to study and understand Bhagavad Gita. By association of the devotee, one is placed in devotional service, and this dispels all one's misgivings about Krishna. After these misgivings have been perfectly cleared away, one becomes fixed in one's study. then one relishes the study of Bhagavad Gita and attains the state of feeling always Krishna conscious. In the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna. This highest perfectional stage enables the devotee to be transferred to Goloka Vrindavan, where the devotee becomes eternally happy. Therefore, one should constantly, incessantly chant Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada gives us the essence of Krishna's teachings in the Bhagavad Gita in his purports. And the essence is that we should fully engage ourselves in bhakti, fully engage ourselves in devotional service, in chanting the holy name, the Yuga Dharma, Harinam Sankirtan, and in that way we can transcend, we can go back to Godhead. So I'll stop there for tonight. Next, we will begin chapter 9. Thank you for coming. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
See you soon.
See you soon.